All four gospel writers give us a passion narrative, and the storyline is basically the same. We all have heard the storyline and we know the storyline. But each of the gospel writers also, as I've shared with you in the past, adds some unique touches of his own. And such is the case with St. Luke for sure. One of the touches, my favorite touch that he adds to his particular passion account, one that's very, very important, is found in chapter 22, verse 61. And it's the scene where Peter denies Jesus 3 times while warming his hand around the fire in the courtyard. Two men are facing each other. One is only 10 hours away from death. The other has just told a group gathering around a fire that he did not know the man who was going to his death. No, he protested. I do not know him. I've never been with him. I swear I haven't. And just then a cock crowed to greet the dawn. The prisoner, apparently being led from one room of the palace to another, passed through the yard where the fire and the denial still burned. He looked at the man who stood there, just a look. Suddenly the gate slammed shut, and out into the cold dawn fled the man who had been so loud and so brave just a moment earlier. He ran away into the silent streets to hide himself in a corner of the great city. And as he ran, tears flowed down his face. They were hot and bitter, washing away something that was like dirt on his face and blood on his soul. One of the brilliant things about Luke's gospel, and especially his passion, is that scene. What's underneath that scene is the essence of Christianity. You know, through the years, and I'm very sensitive to our RCI people being here, when I've asked people what they thought Christianity was, or when people signed on the dotted line to become a Christian, I hear things such as, well, it's a body of doctrines. It's a body of doctrines. And so if you follow all the rules, if you obey all the commandments, you're in. You're in. You've got it made. You're one of the rule followers and you're a Christian. That's inadequate. Some have told me, as one friend who was struggling with his faith a number of years ago at midlife time said, well, it's a philosophy, Father Jim. Christianity is a philosophy. It's a way of life. It's a part of our culture. And I thought, well, it's more than just a cultural thing, too. So what is Christianity? What is the bottom line about Christianity? What is Luke speaking to us so powerfully and so emotionally through this passage? Christianity is first and foremost a relationship. A relationship between someone who has been redeemed and the Redeemer. A relationship characterized by faith, by trust, by forgiveness, and by love. And so when Peter was out there at the courtyard, what happened to Peter was much more profound than just denying. He broke a relationship with his Lord and Savior. How did he do so? Well, there he was, warming himself at the fire. You see, for him it was a moment of safety because the people around the fire were hostile towards Jesus. They were the jet setters of the day, the unsympathetic, the people who were the pace setters and their hanger-oners. And so there's Peter warming his hand all the while, and he wanted to win their respect. Because if he had said, I know him, he would have not had their respect at the least. It would have been dangerous for him. And so in that moment when he sought acceptance from the crowd, he hurt his relationship with the Lord. I would like to share with you that Peter's denial is something that we do. And the denial takes place in 4 steps. First of all, you put yourself in a bad situation. That's how it all begins. You put yourself in a bad situation. How so? Well, you put yourself around people who have a difficult time accepting Jesus and a relationship with Jesus. You know, the people who tell the dirty jokes, the people who are the pornographers, the people who are the gossipers, and the people who are our drinking buddies that go out and tell these jokes, and we listen to it and we chuckle along, but something inside says it really isn't right. And yes, even though those ladies that go out with us that we call friends on ladies' night out, what's the subject of the conversation you have at the dinner table? Gossip? Slander? Is that the bulk of it? We put ourselves in that situation by choice. Peter chose to put his hands around the fire and to be surrounded by these people who were very unsympathetic. We do the same. Secondly, step 2, the moment of forgetfulness. How so? We let our guard down. We want so badly to be accepted by the crowd that we'll compromise who we are in the process. And we know we're compromising ourselves to fit in. Kids do it all the time when they get in trouble at school. They'll say, I just wanted to fit in with my group. I didn't want to be different, you see. And with the adults, in order to fit in, sometimes it'll even take a toke on a joint or a couple drinks to lower our defenses so we can set in. And when we do that, we expose our weaknesses and we get ourselves in trouble. The third step, the break. It's when we consciously do or say something that we know hurts our relationship with Jesus. It could be joining in the gossip or the slander of someone that we know is innocent. It could be that drink we take, those multitude of drinks we take, in fact. It could be that white powder that we spread across the table. And yes, it could be clicking upon that icon that pops up on our computer that leads us into the horrible and dark world of pornography. Yes, we choose to make that break. And then on the other hand, there's the break from omission. We had the opportunity to speak up, to defend somebody who was being attacked unjustly, and we chose to remain silent. Why? To go along just to get along. And we commit and sin because we allow evil to flourish. But then the fourth step, the look. The look. What do I mean by the look? I'm talking about what Jesus and Peter did when their eyes met. Can you imagine what Peter was feeling when he turned around and he saw the Lord staring at him after just having denied him 3 times? He was warned that he would. He said, "Oh no, not me." And then their eyes met. How does that happen to us? There's a guy who volunteers at the parish school during lunchtime. He's from our sister parish, St. Stephen's. He has no children in the school. He has no grandchildren in the school. His name is John Moore. He comes several times a week just to serve the meals to his kids. He does so quietly and humbly, and no, he doesn't join in the table gossip. He simply does his work. He picks up the canned goods that are in the back of church for Echo, and he's gone. And how many people have said to me, "Wow, what an incredible guy. I should be doing that." You see, John Moore is the look of Jesus in your eyes when you see him doing what he does so naturally. Sometimes the look comes when you hear me preaching a sermon. How many times I've seen people put their heads down, somebody in anguish, and I've actually seen people leave the church because of a word or a phrase that was the look from Jesus. That's what it was. It wasn't just the word. It was Jesus looking at you, trying to pierce your conscience, and you just couldn't let it happen at that moment. How many times you open the Bible? Many times people have told me they've gone to that little prayer station back there where we keep a Bible opened up, and they said, "Father Jim, it was amazing. I simply come to that passage, and I looked at that passage, and it was almost as if the Lord was speaking to me. He was. He wasn't just speaking to you, he was looking at you. He was looking at you. He gave you the look. You know, each time there's something here on this altar that you don't see. But I keep a cross here on this altar. And I keep the cross facing me because I don't want to be distracted by you. I want to be able to look at this bread and wine, and I want to see the Lord looking at me and saying to me, you know, Father Jim, you're not worthy of being a Catholic priest, but I called you to be one anyway. And so I get to look too. And it keeps me focused and humble and sorry, and makes me realize what a privilege it is to do what I do here at this altar. And a lot of people, especially a lot of church leaders, got the look in the past 2 weeks. What look? Well, it came from an Argentina guy by the name of Pope Francis. What look did they get? They got the look of somebody who said, you know, I don't need a lavish palace to live in just because I'm a cardinal of the Catholic Church. I don't need a stretched limousine to ride around in just because I'm the Archbishop of Buenos Aires. I will take the bus. I don't need a chauffeur driving me around. I don't need that. I am a man who can drive myself where I need to go with God's help. And you know what? Not a bishop, an archbishop, a cardinal has any excuse when they got the look. How can you object to what he did? What can you say? He's being arrogant? No. And then this week, you want to talk about the look. He did another first in history. He had a mass at the Vatican. For whom? The people who cleaned the toilets. For the people who swept the halls and mopped the hallways of the Vatican. The people who trimmed the shrubs and planted the flowers and picked up the cigarette butts. He had a mass just for them in the morning. And then when it was done, he went into the back pews where a few of them were hanging on, and he meditated with them until they were done praying. The Pope of the Universal Catholic Church? This past week, I went a little bit down memory lane looking through some papers that I had, and I found a story, a true story, about an 8th grade student many years ago who got the look. Right after her graduation, she wrote the following. Dear Father Jim, it has taken me a while to think of something to convince you that I will do the absolute best for myself. And the truth is, I couldn't. But I want you to know that I want to live up to the potential that so many say I have. I don't like letting people down, but more important, I can't stand letting myself down. I am so thankful that you pulled me aside and talked to me, because honestly, I was lost. I don't want to label what started me drinking, but I do know that I was lost. You helped me realize that I was affecting others as well as myself. Many people want the best for me, and I'm searching for what the best is. But I can't promise you that I'll always strive to be the best, to improve myself in every way possible. I hope this has helped you understand that I won't intentionally hurt myself in order to feel good for a brief period of time. Thank you for everything you've done for me, and I'll never forget the knowledge and love that my school has given me. She was the daughter of 2 doctors. I had heard a couple credible reports that she had a drinking problem in her 8th grade year. And so, as most of the kids in the school, whether it was St. Mike's or Wheeling or Our Lady of Fatima, Father Jim puts his blue lights on, the dreaded blue lights, and I pull him over the side. And if there's ever an argument why a Catholic priest should be in a Catholic school, it's because of that story I just read. Nobody had the guts to go up to her on the faculty and say, hey, you're hurting yourself. You're hurting yourself. Her friends wouldn't do it. So I pulled her aside and I said, why do you want to kill yourself? You're brilliant intellectually. You have gifts that kids would long for. What was going on? Her older sibling in high school was hosting parties on the weekend and inviting little sister to come and get drunk with the rest of them. And she was doing it. And she was destroying her body until I pulled her over and gave her the look. My brothers and sisters, the look is important because we do deny Jesus. We put ourselves in bad situations. We make a break with the Lord Jesus. We forget about who we are as his disciple, and we behave in order to fit in with the crowd. That's what Peter did. That was the subject of his washing his hand until he got the look. Now, the look didn't take effect right then on the spot, because remember, when it came time for his Lord to ascend the hill called Calvary, and when he was hanging on the cross, Peter ran like a scared coward. He was hiding in the bushes, looking from a distance. He was scared to death that they were going to do it to him. But then that look ultimately had its effect. It turned him around, so much so that in the year 60 AD, he would make his way to Rome under chains and shackles, being arrested for being a believer in Jesus of all things. And as they were preparing to put the cross on which they hung him into the ground to stand it straight up, he begged the executioners, please turn the cross upside down, because I am not worthy of being crucified in the same direction as my master. And they obliged. The coward, the fitter-inner, the one who was simply going along to get along with the crowd around the fire that night, because of the look, turned his life around. What's my message for you as we prepare to enter Holy Week? I will be begging God, beginning today, I will be begging God for each of you to get the look. I want you to look deeply into Jesus' eyes. I want you to see his longing for you, his beckoning for you to come closer to his heart. I want you to feel the pain and the guilt of knowing what it was like to break your relationship with him. You did it, not him. But, like Peter, I want you to take the time this week to beg the Lord for forgiveness. To say, Lord, I'm sorry I hurt you, take me back. And you know what? He will.